Nowadays, everyone in Korea is going crazy over this online multiplayer game that lets players create their own dungeons. Out of everyone, the protagonist of this story, Kang Chi-woo, is such an insane player that people think he's either cheating or must be an AI. Literally, bro is always ranked at the top, and given his personality and the way he looks, it's pretty natural for people to assume he's an AI robot. The reason he's so obsessed with this game is that in it, he has complete control over everything, unlike in the real world. Everything seems impossible in real life. Just look at these telephone poles. He literally can't move them or use them in any way to get maximum efficiency out of them. But in the game, he could change their size, form, or anything else with just a click of his mouse. Even that truck speeding toward him could have been moved out of the way. But since he's in the real world, he's sure he's going to be isekai'd as soon as it hits him. Luckily, the truck driver slams the brakes just in time, though he's mad to see Chi-woo standing in the middle of the road. Our guy simply points his finger at the traffic light, which is currently green for the crosswalk. It's frustrating that he can't do whatever he wants in this world. If he had the power to change reality like in the game, things would be way better. For example, that giant reinforcing iron bar that's loose and about to fall. It's only a matter of time before it crushes that little girl like a tomato. With no choice, Kang Chi-woo makes a quick dash, pushes the girl out of the way, and ends up dying in her place. But as we all know, this isn't how his life ends. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself drifting through a black void. In front of him stands a devil-like monster who bestows some wisdom upon him. Death is just a means for reincarnation, and Chi-woo still hasn't seen the true reality he was oblivious to. With all this context, Chi-woo's soul gets thrown into the body of a fiend. Of course, he's got a ton of questions. Like, where the hell is he? Whose body is this? And why isn't he dead? One thing's for sure, that he's pretty darn sure he's reincarnated into someone's body. The overwhelming sensations flooding his senses are proof that this isn't a dream. As for where he is, all he can tell is that he's inside some old castle. While muttering all sorts of questions to himself, he gets struck by a sharp blade that goes straight through his chest, causing blood to pour out. The woman then retracts the sword, causing even more pain. While she's enjoying watching him struggle, Chi-woo is not sure how the hell he's still conscious after taking such a brutal hit. He turns to her and asks why she's doing this. The lady doesn't bother explaining much, raising her sword again to obliterate Chi-woo into smithereens. But she halts just as quickly when another guy enters the scene. Turns out, the three of them are siblings, and that girl's name is Kildara, their sister. The big bro who just showed up feels pity for his younger sibling, and tells their sister not to be too harsh on him. He kneels down to be at eye level with Chi-woo and hands him a potion. He pretends to care about his little brother, which makes our boy think that this guy actually cares about him. So, he grabs the potion, thinking it's some kind of healing elixir. As soon as he drinks it, he realizes the hard way that it's poison and throws up immediately. By the way, his new name in this world is Kella. His throat feels like it's pierced by a million needles, and it's so hot it feels like it's boiling. Seeing him suffer, his trash sister gets concerned, thinking he's about to die. After all, she wants to be the one to claim his life. The big brother reassures her that Kella might be in pain, but this trash won't die so easily. Suddenly, the castle gates open, and the soldiers announce the return of King Hel Khaldun from his hero hunt. Turns out, the king in question is the father of these pathetic siblings bullying Kella. As we get a closer look, the king looks like a total Chad, with a no-nonsense attitude plastered across his face. Right now, he's disappointed to hear the pathetic cries of pain echoing through his castle. The trash sister starts apologizing for the commotion and tries to throw Kella under the bus. But the Demon King doesn't take their crap. In an instant, he closes the distance between them, grabs both of his kids by their throats, and starts choking them with his godly grip. As far as he's concerned, it's a humiliation for the weak to make any noise in the walls of his castle. Both siblings continue apologizing with their suffocating breaths. It's then that Kella realizes this bastard is his father, if those two pathetic parasites are his siblings. The Demon King then proceeds to stomp on Kella. After all, the only voices he'll tolerate in his castle are the sounds of a great demon being born or the sound of an honorable death. With those words, he stomps on Kella like he is some sort of empty cola can, causing his screams to reverberate throughout the castle. As Kella lies there, defeated, one thing's for sure, he's not dreaming. He has definitely reincarnated into another world. And, as if the comedy of errors couldn't get worse, he's the son of a bastard demon lord. Before we move on with the story, let's take a trip down memory lane to when Kella was just a child. As usual, he's been the punching bag for his siblings, and all he could do was cry and complain to his mother. While Kildara poked his eye with a fork, his brother Tarm poisoned his food. The only advice the doting mother gives him is to pay them back like a real demon would. Kella could do that, but he fears the consequences of messing with his siblings, like he might end up getting killed. In that case, his mother simply suggests that he kill them before they can kill him. You see, Kella's father killed 12 of his brothers and became the great demon king, so it's only natural that if someone's trying to kill Kella, he should kill them first. She then pulls out her dagger and swiftly plunges it into the poor kid's belly, showing him the way of demons. This is how he's supposed to treat his siblings. Right away, Kella wakes up from his nightmare, panting heavily. There's a maid beside him, looking relieved to see him awake. Meanwhile, our boy is piecing things together. What he just saw in his dream were fragments of memories from the original owner of this body, Kella Khaldun. He then notices that every wound has already healed, which means the owner of this body possesses insane regenerative abilities. The maid reminds him that he's been asleep for days, so he should get up and have some food with his family to replenish his energy. This woman is actually Kella's personal servant, who goes by the name Rin. Kella was much more timid compared to his siblings, so he's always been despised. Even Rin doesn't treat him like a proper maid would. There are plenty of memories of Rin that Kella has, and none of them are pleasant. She was never that obedient servant, always slacking off instead of fulfilling her duties. In simpler terms, she's a little rascal. For once, Kella also feels that the previous owner of this body was pathetic. After all, if he wasn't, he wouldn't have let a servant treat the son of the Demon King like this. Basically, Kella has been bullied by everyone all this time. Now that he thinks about it, his life here isn't much different from the one he had in his previous world. At this point, it's just nature's law that the weak get devoured by the strong. Later, when he sits at the family table for food, he finds his father and siblings there. The Demon King seems kind of annoyed at Kella's unpunctuality. Kella instinctively feels intimidated, but hey, he's in the presence of the Demon King after all. Still, he takes his seat and apologizes for being late. Poor guy just can't catch a break. His sister Caldera launches a dagger under the table that jabs right into his leg. Of course, this causes him immense pain while Caldera and her servant laugh like a bunch of hyenas. She teases him and hopes he'll eat well and become a good man. Inwardly, Kella is dying of pain. He can't imagine the consequences if his family learns that the person inside this body isn't Kella anymore. Nonetheless, outwardly, he appreciates the concern she's showing and promises to eat well. But as soon as he takes the first bite, he realizes that the thing he's eating isn't food at all. It looks like it's the doing of Tarm as usual, who, instead of serving real food, gave him a foul-tasting soup as an appetizer. Tarmy keeps a soft smile on his face, acting like he cares so much about his brother. But Kella knows all too well it's just a facade. If he's being brutally honest, the three demons present here aren't his family. They're his arch-nemeses. This is when he makes a vow. He won't be a punching bag for these guys anymore. He's done with their bullshit, and he'll make a change for the better. He's always wanted to accomplish something by himself. In the game, he was recognized as the strongest map designer. But when it came to real-life matters, he was absolutely shit at it. He was utterly powerless, utterly hopeless, with no ray of hope coming from anywhere. And that's how he died a dog's death under a reinforcement iron bar. But this time he won't die a pathetic death. With that in mind, he picks up a food platter and throws it hard in his sister's face. After all, why should he be the only one to taste the food Tarmy made with such love? Furthermore, he pulls out the dagger lodged in his leg and throws it at Tarma. Again, he shouldn't be the only one to enjoy the gift his sister gave him. Of course, the Demon King has no idea what flipped Kella's switch all of a sudden. Bro's going bonkers. He grabs the dining table and literally flips it over, causing everything to fly around. A while later, we cut back to Kella, who looks thoroughly pleased after making his family taste their own medicine. Though he probably shouldn't have flipped that table, because it infuriated his father beyond belief. Poor Kella gets pounded into the ground like a pathetic dog. Nonetheless, he recovers quickly, so he's not complaining. He can feel a foreign strength within him, making him feel like he's truly the Demon King's son. For now, he wants to figure out the extent of his abilities. As if on cue, his maid reminds him about the lessons he's supposed to take on demonic powers. Kella responds coldly, telling her he won't tolerate her commanding tone. Of course, Rin is bewildered by where all this attitude is coming from. Meanwhile, Kella is thinking about these so-called demonic power lessons. From what he managed to gather from Kella's memories, they're some of the worst things he's ever experienced. Still, that's no reason to skip them. Later, once he gets to the training grounds, the instructor reveals that Lady Caldera and Lord Tarm won't be joining the class today. Though the teacher is glad that at least the rest of the students are here, among the students stands Kella, who doesn't seem to have a good impression of the trash standing on both his shoulders. He remembers them from Kella's memories, and the memories he shares with these guys aren't pleasant ones. In those memories, these bastards would always beat the shit out of the timid Kella, claiming they were just practicing. All of them, including his siblings, were true demons, relishing in bullying him as if it was their perfect pastime. Even though Kella never had the will to fight or continue the mock duels, they'd always find some excuse to beat him to a pulp. For Kella, one thing has become crystal clear. The previous owner of this body wasn't weak at all. but he was just too kind-hearted for his own good. Now that the kind-hearted Kella is gone, Kella plans to change everything. He's going to use these amazing powers for himself and show these bastards how trash they really are. As the class begins, the teacher announces they're continuing the sparring session they left off from the last class. The redhead guy claims that it was he who had been fighting Kella last time. The sassy redhead can't help but throw jabs to rile up Kella, but this is the mistake he shouldn't be making, and Kella's sure he's going to regret it. As both combatants face off, the redhead conjures up red and blue energy around his hands, ready to duel. The onlookers are sure that Kella's about to get his ass handed to him again. Some of them tell the redhead to go easy on Kella, because they won't be able to handle his whiny screeches. By the way, this bastard's name is Rude. Kella takes note of how these assholes resemble the bullies from his past life. In some ways, they remind him of our boy's old self. Like in his past life, he didn't have money or strength, and everyone looked down on him. But now all of that will be in the past. With that, my guy begins exuding an immense amount of mana, enough to make his opponent tighten up in fear. Not just him, but all the jackasses who love to hate Kella are now in shambles. Rude looks like he's about to have a serious case of constipation. The pressure is so intense that his feet are literally petrified to the ground. Kella, on the other hand, balls up his fist and delivers a punch so devastating that it drills that bastard into the ground. All those goons who were once having fun mocking Kella now have their jaws on the floor. Even the teacher is sweating bullets. The fact that Rude didn't get a single chance to react is just mind-blowing. Rude's face looks like a battered piñata, with his horns and teeth broken, blood pouring out. Kella, however, isn't messing around. This punch is meant to send the message that Kella is not some lowly back-alley kid. He's the son of the mighty Demon King, and he won't tolerate anyone talking shit about someone from the royal family. Rude musters a feeble apology because he really doesn't want to get killed. Kella gives him one final deadly glare, making sure the bastard knows not to try this shit again. Meanwhile, a wave of despair begins to creep over the assholes standing on the sidelines. They can't believe this is the same loser Kella they used to bully. Now Kella has ascended to the level of a Sigma. Just his presence alone is making even the instructor fear for his life. Kella turns to his trashy teacher and insists he conduct the class as he's supposed to. In the background, Rin is also awestruck by this side of Kella, something she's never seen before. For the first time, she's sure something suspicious is going on. We then cut to the Demon King, who watches all this unfold from the balcony. We cut to Hel Khaldun's castle, where Kella's annoyed siblings are gathered. Seldera is fuming because that little brat dared to throw poisoned soup in her face, and Tarmi hasn't forgotten the humiliation he suffered either. For now, Tarm tells his sister to calm down and focus on recovering. After all, she doesn't have Kella's scary regenerative abilities. This only makes her angrier, and she throws a tantrum about how only that brat was blessed with regenerative powers. Tarmi is sure that Kella has gone through some sort of personality change. He can't stop thinking about how Kella daringly flipped the table over and declared that from now on, everyone would eat in their own rooms. That alone made their father crack a smile, something they'd never seen in their entire lives. Seldera's fury intensifies. The idea that their father would smile for someone like Kella drives her insane. Tarmi shares her thoughts. He then states that he'd rather die than join forces with her, but the situation is so dire that he has no choice but to suggest they team up and deal with Kella first. Kildera smiles, signaling that she's all in for this idea. She too wants to deal with her little brother before Kella catches their father's attention again. We then cut back to Kella in the classroom. He's spooked when the teacher shows them a hologram of the previous Demon King, Turk Khaldun. The sight of Turk is enough to intimidate Kella. The teacher continues, explaining how Turk was hailed as the strongest demon of his time. His downfall came at the hands of a cowardly scheme by the Heaven Guild. Since then, every guild has started advancing toward the demonic kingdom, hoping to be the first to annihilate the demons. Kella already knows about these guilds from Kella's memories. Apparently, due to these guild folks, Kella was never able to escape the castle and live a normal life. Living here in this hellhole was miserable. The teacher explains that with the large Heaven Guild as their foundation, these bastards are preparing to launch an attack on the demon kingdom. Therefore, to help King Hell wipe them out, the teacher urges every student to pour their heart into combat training. Every student shouts with enthusiasm and praise for their demon king. Cutting back to Kella, now sitting at the highest point in the castle, he gazes at their territory. He wants to find a way to escape. After all, if he stays, he might fall for his siblings' shady schemes and die unnecessarily. According to Rin, his father is supposed to leave the castle for his next hero hunt in 3 days. Kella then asks her if she knows the biggest weakness this castle has. Rin isn't sure why Kella is suddenly so serious, but she answers with a no. Kella reveals that there's no map maker to help them navigate the terrain of battle. The guild bastards are using the neglected territories around them to launch their attacks. Kella doesn't want to waste any time before his father goes on his next expedition. In the meantime, he plans to map out the entire area. He believes this is the only way he can truly help his father destroy every last one of those bastards surrounding their territory. While the old Kella failed to escape many times, Kella plans to make his escape a success this time. He has more freedom here than he did in his old world, and he's confident he'll succeed in creating the map. He suddenly turns to Rin, shouting at her to create a secret office in the castle basement right away, as he needs a space to secretly work without his father knowing about his plans. We cut back to the Demon King, who already seems aware of Kella's escape plan. He's pretty sure Kella won't be able to escape his father's watchful eye. So, before it's too late, the king decides to put his own plan into motion. The next scene opens with Kella's disappointed face. The space Rin chose for him isn't what he imagined. It looks more like a storeroom than an elegant office befitting the son of the Demon King. Poor Rin starts sobbing because this was the best place she could manage to find, especially since she was strictly told that the place had to remain a secret. It looks like Kella is intentionally yelling at her to establish a real master-servant dynamic between them, and it seems his change in attitude is actually working. Rin can feel that he's gotten much scarier, something that doesn't resemble the old Kella she knew. At the same time, she can't help but notice how cool he's become. He now carries himself with such grace and authority that it's honestly making her feel a little turned on. Kella yells at her again for wasting time daydreaming and orders her to fetch him a cup of coffee. The poor girl dashes away to get what he's ordered. Meanwhile, Kella finally focuses on his plans. He spreads the map out on the table. After seeing how the demon castle is geographically disadvantaged, he decides to create his own map. Meanwhile, Rin is running down the empty corridors, desperately trying to fulfill her orders. She's so caught up in the moment that she doesn't even realize coffee doesn't exist here, and she has no clue how to proceed with this bizarre order. Just then, she's startled by the presence of the Demon King, who questions what she's doing in the basement without Kella, and where Kella is right now. The poor girl starts to panic. After all, she was told to keep his office a secret. But under the Demon King's intense scrutiny, she's not sure how much longer she can keep quiet. Meanwhile, Kella is having the time of his life, drawing out his map with ease. He's genuinely enjoying himself as he maps out the terrain. Suddenly, a blast rocks the front gate. Of course, it's his father, looking absolutely furious to learn that Kella has created a secret office without reporting it to him first. Poor guy doesn't even get a chance to explain himself before his father delivers a hard blow to his belly. His father wants him to face him head-on, not hide away in a basement and plot the king's death like a coward. The pain Kella's feeling is on a whole other level compared to his siblings' petty beatings. If this keeps up for a few more minutes, Kella is sure he's going to die. Before that happens, he quickly presents the map to his father. The Demon King, utterly confused, doesn't understand what Kella is trying to prove by showing him a map. Kella begins to speak like a parrot, revealing how the outskirts of the castle are too geographically disadvantaged for their battles against the guilds. If they change the geography based on his map, it'll greatly aid them in the upcoming battles. Finally, the Demon King understands and retracts his hand, though he still doesn't understand why Kella needed to set up a secret office in the first place. Kella, without hesitation, explains that it would have been too arrogant to directly claim he wanted to help the mighty Demon King in his endeavors. That's why he wanted to show the revised map instead of blatantly making such a claim. Now that he's demonstrated his usefulness with the map, he asks his father to accept his help in exterminating Heaven's forces. Rin, watching from the background, is absolutely losing it. She's wondering why Kella is so reckless, addressing the Demon King with such blatant confidence. She thinks he's trying to get himself killed, but it seems like Rin is just overthinking it. The Demon King only asks how long it will take to complete the map. Kella lights up like a kid in a candy store, realizing his father actually approves of his map. He flashes all 5 fingers of his hand. The Demon King misunderstands his gesture and thinks Kella is asking for 5 days. So my guy quickly clears the air by reassuring him that it'll only take 5 hours, and once the map is finished, they can complete the necessary construction before the battle with Heaven. The Demon King is taken aback by his son's boldness. Eventually, he cracks a smile and gives Kella all the necessary permissions he needs. However, the Demon King warns Kella that if he turns out to be all bark and no bite, he'll pay the price with his life. With those words, the Demon King walks away. Suddenly, Kella is hit by a wave of pain and vomits, the aftermath of the blow he took from his father. On a serious note, he can't shake the fact that his own father would have killed him if he hadn't proved himself. Meanwhile, Rin feels a twinge of admiration. Her master actually managed to negotiate with the Demon King in his favor. Of course, poor girl gets yelled at again for standing idly by and is told to take Kella to the medical room. Just as Kella promised, he completes the map in record time of 5 hours. The Demon King's forces gather and begin extensive construction according to the new plan. The mages use illusion magic outside the construction area, transforming the geography so the enemy won't notice what's going on behind the scenes. Just like Kella aced every map in the game, this one is also a success. We cut to the Heaven Guild assembly. Heaven Guild Master Hermison announces to his camp that the demons are transforming the surrounding terrain to their advantage. They've also discovered that the demons are using illusion magic. One of the juniors questions if they should launch an attack and disrupt the demons' preparations. The old man responds with no. As far as his strategic mind can tell, launching an attack now would be useless since they're already late. Their only option is to stick with the original plan. In 3 days, the strongest squad formed in Talua, known as Talcan, is arriving. Talua has been forming Talcan, their strongest squad, for decades. Now that elite squad is finally at its peak. He's sure those pesky demons won't be able to beat the strongest elite squad, which had been prepared in decades, now will be here in 3 days. That's why he's confident the Great Demon King will perish. We cut to the Talcan squad, making their way at full speed. They're confident they'll reach the Demon King's castle in just 2 days. Leading the charge is their general, Kilman, absolutely hyped up. He rallies his squad, declaring that they'll be the ones to bring down the Great Demon King, who has lasted for thousands of years. The rest of the squad is equally hyped, ready to burn the demon castle to the ground and wipe out the creatures inside. Riding a horse below is Shrills, the army commander. She's immensely proud of General Kilman's leadership. Her sidekick asks if they can actually defeat the Demon King this time. Shrill's response is positive. Talcan squad is unlike any other guild. Taking down the Demon King and his castle isn't far-fetched. It's just a matter of time. Meanwhile, the Demon King seems very pleased after learning how effective Kella's map actually is. Though it's not a perfect plan, it's better than nothing. And with his own body reaching its limits, he doesn't have many options left to rely on. Tomorrow will be the day he finally settles things with Heaven. The mages and demons are working furiously to finish the necessary constructions before the deadline. Kella watches as progress is being made. He can feel the difference between mapping terrain in a game and changing the real-world geography. Still, there's something thrilling about having the power to reshape the land. All he needs to do now is wait for the battle between Hell and Heaven to unfold. Tomorrow will determine how effective his map truly is. Finally, the day of the battle arrives. The forces of Heaven have gathered, and Talcan's squad has reached their camp. The soldiers chant Talcan's name, revering their power. Guildmaster Hermison meets with Commander Kilman. Kilman expresses his eagerness to march toward the Demon King's territory and defeat them once and for all. The old man is ready to proceed with the plan, and before they begin their march, the soldiers raise their hands and let out a unified battle cry. Out of nowhere, a small blue ball appears between the feet of Kilman and Hermison. It looks like some kind of portal, rapidly expanding. Kilman roars for his soldiers to prepare for an enemy surprise attack, ordering them into a defensive formation. From the blue energy, the Demon King himself, Hel Khaldun, steps out. To understand why the Demon King has come to the front lines, we flash back to an earlier moment. Kella reveals to his father that he has removed the barrier that focused Heaven's surveillance magic on their castle. This means his father can now use teleportation magic without anyone watching them. Soon, the mighty Demon King will be standing right in the center of Heaven's base. Of course, his daughter objects, arguing that teleporting straight into the enemy's base is reckless. Tarmi, too, adds that it's too dangerous, even for the mighty Demon King. The Demon King is furious at this criticism. It feels as though his children are questioning his competence. Both siblings tremble under their father's intense gaze. What they were actually trying to say is that he hasn't fully recovered and should avoid such risks. But the Demon King has had enough. He silences them, reminding them that only he will decide what's right or wrong. He's already made up his mind. He will begin the assault in the heart of Heaven's base. Back in the present, the Demon King vows to eradicate every last one of them. Kilman, on the other hand, is also determined to make sure the Demon King regrets his decision to show up. He quickly orders his Talcan squad to commence fire. Meanwhile, Kella has gathered all his forces where he needs them. With the preparations complete, he orders his army to charge forward. The terrifying army roars as they rush forward, while Heaven's soldiers begin casting offensive magic spells. But the Heaven soldiers are caught off guard when, out of nowhere, a massive number of demons spring from the ground and latch onto the humans. Kella watches from above. Despite the bloodbath unfolding below, he can't help but crack a smile after seeing that everything is going according to the plan. Just as Kella is enjoying the success of his map, his siblings arrive, and it's clear they've come as his worst nightmare. They don't want him to hog all the glory and recognition from their father, so Kella must die right here. Tarmi uses his strange whip, piercing Kella right in the belly. It burrows deeper into him, continuing to lodge itself further inside. While Tarmi presses the tentacle further, he commands Caldera to make her move as well. She charges at Kella with a sword in hand, and in a split second, she severs his head as if it's a mere cucumber. The two siblings smile triumphantly as Kella's head flies through the air. While he might have crazy regeneration abilities, his siblings are sure that he won't be able to avoid his death this time. Kella Khaldun's head flew away from his body. Spilling blood all over the place, his frame fell off the overlooking castle wall. Hitting the floor, the ground was painted red. With his quickly flickering remnant of life, Kella lets out a muffled noise. His traitorous siblings, Tarmi and Tildera, look down with glee, admiring their bloody work. Just when Tarmi was about to turn around to go and help his father, Tildera seized the chance to stab him in his weak spot. After dealing lethal amounts of damage, she jumped away from her quick-witted brother. Tarmi was taken aback upon seeing their mother's forbidden weapon in Tildera's hand. Crazy Tildera couldn't care less about rules forbidding the use of certain weapons. They're demons after all. If she kills her remaining competition right now, she will be the sole successor left. As Tarmi bleeds out, he dashed in anger, aiming to take her down with him. But it was practically over the moment he was stabbed with the forbidden blade. As they clashed on the rooftop, their beheaded little brother's life slowly faded away. He couldn't help but think about how demonic those two really are. Before breathing his last breath, the ground his body was lying on magically collapsed. Situated directly underneath Kella was his personal servant, Rin. She deftly grabbed his head and body, pulling them to safety. Away from prying eyes, she forcefully attached the separated parts together. Shivering in concern, Rin desperately tried to help her boss. Meanwhile, the demon army is flocking to the teleportation portals to mount a surprise attack on Heaven's flank. Unfortunately for them, humans have already accounted for such a tactic. Nevertheless, they charged forth without fear. They excelled in straightforward confrontations anyway. There is no going back for either side anymore. While the foot soldiers were engaged in an inconsequential battle, the main event just got more hype when a whole-ass dragon joined in. It had been a while since Demon King Hel Khaldun last dealt with a mythical beast like this. Regardless, he played with the scaled monster like a lost lizard. Using his sheer arm strength, he ripped the dragon's head, beheading the beast before it could execute a single attack. General Killman was aghast. Philly the dragon was supposed to be one of their trump cards. Panicking, he ordered the mage brigade to unleash everything. After an ungodly barrage of mana, the general waited for the smoke to clear, praying that they did enough damage to stifle the Demon King. Then, the humans felt a collective chill running up their spines. Hel Khaldun emerged from the rubble, his body twisting and transforming into something unearthly. Emanating limitless power, the boss just entered his next phase. General Killman had read and studied about this form from ancient texts. Throughout history, there are very few who have witnessed the Demon King's final form and lived to tell the tale. The soldiers looked to their superiors for orders, their bodies refusing to move from fear. Fighting through dread, Commander Srills kept everyone's morale from dropping to hell. Even General Killman can feel the paralyzing terror taking over his body. The Demon King is aware of one glaring flaw in Kella's otherwise flawless plan. Even though they can bring the fight to the center of Heaven's base, they are essentially trapping themselves in a kill-or-be-killed battlefield. As the Demon King, Hel couldn't possibly let that flaw get in the way of a golden opportunity to ore a farm. He is used to playing a zero-sum game. Somehow he feels as though his son has taken his pride into consideration as well. Casting useless thoughts aside, Hel focused on how he'd slaughter everything in his path. As usual, the best way to solve a problem is to mow everybody down until they're dead. As he goes into his combat stance, General Killman urgently warns his men of what's coming. Shaking all useless emotions aside, he charged forth as the vanguard. The Demon King's eyes glimmered with brutality as the war reached its crescendo. Back in the castle's hidden basement, Rin is still holding on to her master's body, making sure not to move an inch. She prayed to whatever deity was out there to heal young Master Kella. A few days ago, Kella actually forced her to participate in some gruesome experiments. He would dismember his own body, and his poor servant must help him attach them back. It was a bit gross, but it works. Healing a severed arm only takes a few seconds. After a few tests on non-lethal parts, Kella strengthened his resolve to account for a beheading next. He needs to make sure that his super regeneration can save him from the most egregious injury. He promised Rin that they'd take doing head slowly. After a few nerve-wracking experiments on beheading, Kella confirmed that he is practically immortal. The next part of the plan is naturally leaking a few tidbits of false information to Tildera's personal servant. Rin did as she was ordered to do, and leaked a fake plan about how Kella was planning to kill Tildera during the war, while the king was busy fighting Heaven. Of course, Tildera's servant was incensed. Capitalizing on her reaction, Rin added that the only way to bypass Kella's insane regeneration was by slicing his head off. Back to the present, Rin is gritting her teeth in worry. The crazy plan worked perfectly, but it wouldn't mean anything if the reformed, reckless, and idiotic young lord died anyway. Before you know it, his neck wound has healed, and the color of life has returned to his face. Kella really thought he was done for. His recovery speed must have slowed down because of the mana-imbued dagger. But now that he's fine, it's time to move on to the next part of the plan. Rin was just glad that her master was still breathing. Unable to contain her emotions any longer, she wrapped her arms around him. Unaccustomed to this feeling in both of his two lives, Kella blushed and felt his mind turn to mush. Pushing her away, he tried to lock back into the plan. Before moving on, he graciously severed Rin's servant contract once and for all. With this, she should regain her freedom, no longer bound to a life of servitude. Such a kind decision moved Rin's heart. Now that the contract is no longer in place, he advised her to live the life she always wanted to live with no strings attached. Seeing him marching forth with a sense of dignity made the newly liberated maiden's heart flutter. She remembered the first time they met as kids. The little boy didn't want a servant. He just wanted a friend. Remembering how he treated him years afterward crushed her with guilt. To correct her mistakes, she begged Kella to take her back as a servant once more. Against his wishes, she continued following him through the castle's hidden tunnels. Back in the main event, General Killman is at his last leg, covered in wounds and staggering with one less eye. The Demon King wasn't exactly unscathed either. Hel Khaldoon had lost an arm and sustained grievous damages. Surrounded by crafty attacks from all angles, the Demon King is still standing strong. All by himself, Killman admits that he is no match against such a monster. By his estimation, no single human can stop this disaster at all. Looking around, Hel Khaldoon assessed that human forces were nearly wiped out. Naturally, the same goes for his soldiers. At this moment, he thought of his children. He accepted the fact that none of them were coming to help him. Instead of wallowing in disappointment, he reminded himself that this was his own fight right from the start. With his last bit of remaining mana, he aims to wipe everything in sight. Meanwhile, Kella and Rin have reached the light at the end of the underground tunnels. Once he gets out, he'll be away from the surveillance of the demon castle. He will be truly free. He was so tunnel-visioned that he almost fell into a trap if it wasn't for Rin's timely interference. She jumped in front of her and summoned a magic shield to defend against malevolent spells. She was right to clutch up as soon as she caught a whiff of blood. Since there's no point in hiding anymore, Heaven Assassins ditched their hiding spots. They hid in the tunnels to account for demons trying to flee. It's a mystery how, but they even have this secret exit covered. These assassins aren't playing around. Their sole mission is to make sure that the Demon King's royal lineage is wiped out. From a safe distance, they rained down spells that Rin painstakingly blocked with her rapidly deteriorating shield. As the young lord's willing servant, she is dead set on prioritizing his safety above all, above even her own life. From what Kella can remember, Rin caps out at simple defense magic. She can't hold on for long. Other than that, she can barely use attack magic. She just saved his life twice, and now she's trying to throw away her own just so he can flee. Kella grabbed her by the shoulder, a stern expression on his face. He then threw her to the side and scolded the servant for acting all strong and tough. If she really wants to be his servant so badly, the least she can do is stay alive for a bit longer. Seeing this, the assassins called him an idiot for throwing away his last hope for survival. According to their intel, middle-class magic is good enough to kill Kella, the weakest heir in the Demon King's castle. What their intel didn't account for was the truth. Kella has always been a timid boy. He has the power but never had the heart to use it. With a new soul in charge, that's not the case anymore, which means that the intel humans have is useless. They really thought the son of the Demon King was a simple low-rank scrub. Proving them wrong, Kella dealt with one of the assassins in one punch. They really need to double-check their sources next time. Caught in his hands, another assassin tried to beg for his life before getting crushed. Defeating a Heaven's Mage assassin is no easy task. As the rest of the cloaked gang panicked, Kella directed his bloodlust at them. In a compromised situation, there is one thing that the mages can use: the Light Spear spell. With this technique, they can pool their paltry mana in a single powerful attack. The downside is failing to execute properly would result in a deadly blowback. Sensing the efficacy of the terrible spell, Rin tried to beg her master to fall back, but it was too late. Both of them were impaled by numerous light spears. Wounded, Kella was rattled as he felt completely and utterly paralyzed. Rin was also caught by the petrifying spell. She apologized for failing her master once more. The remaining mages were completely winded but pleased that it worked. Drawing their blades, they strolled with full confidence to finish the job. One of the bastards proposed that they should be rewarded for all their troubles. The restrained servant would be fun to play with before they conclude the mission. Never showing any hint of fear, Rin shouted at the scumbag humans. This is Kella's first look at the humans of this world. Just like in his previous life, humans are still capable of deplorable evils. Turning their attention to the Demon King's son, the mage coated his sword with mana. Kella was literally a dozen steps away from freedom after being beheaded. He can't fall here now, right? As the blade swung, the young lord felt as though time had stopped at a complete standstill. Something or someone is coming. When he opened his eyes, the avatar of his father was before him. At first, he thought the Demon King had concluded the war. If that's the case, his plan of liberation would be ruined. Then, Hel Khaldoon started to address him with utmost sincerity. As the Demon King, he's fought countless wars and has considered all possibilities just as many times. In his view, Seldera is a brat who does not have a single inkling of consideration for her fellow demons. Tarme, on the other hand, has no ambition to lead the kingdom. Confused and agitated, Kella asked his father what really was going on. Ignoring his questions, Hel asserted that a demon king has the ability to pass his mana down to his bloodline before perishing. Though it was only for a very brief amount of time, Hel had come to see that Kella was the best candidate to inherit the throne. Knowing that this would mess with his plans, Kella tried to refuse. But he has no say in the matter. The Demon King had already decided. And so, Hel Kaldun compressed all mana left in his body to his heir and son, Kella Kaldun. Against his will, the young lord was forced to take the dark orb of concentrated power into his body. With a morose look in his eyes, Hel wished for his son to not mourn his father's death and to be like a true demon going forward. Back on the main battlefield, the last bit of life left the severed head of the Demon King. Commander Srill stood speechless, muttering weakly that the Demon King was dead. General Killman had to sacrifice himself to make it happen, but the last-ditched effort worked. Even the remaining soldiers could not believe it. They're looking at the king's corpse. Once it finally sunk in, they all screamed and shouted to celebrate their victory. Unbeknownst to these humans, the king's son is currently assimilating with the royal demonic power. Upon becoming one with the Demon King's mana, the paltry light spears keeping him and Rin in place dispersed like they were nothing. The mages felt the sudden increase in the young lord's mana and cowered. Kella laughed his ass off. In truth, everything worked out perfectly in the end. Now that Hel is dead and he's inherited infinite power, everything has finally clicked into place. The mages desperately looked for an exit strategy now that their mana was tapped out. Searching inside him, Kella can sense an endless void of darkness. The power that Hel gave him is simply too massive to completely grasp at the moment. As the mages backed off in fear, Kella asked them to repeat the salacious threats they were throwing at Rin earlier. Sure, he is a demon by blood, but humans sure do like taking the title with their words and actions. With the juice from his father, dealing with these weak-ass mages was as easy as can be. Hel's power is truly profound, but Kella could feel that tapping into it causes a lot of strain on his body. It seems like he can't quite handle it properly yet. Upon confirming that Rin was fine, the master and servant continued on their way out of this god-forsaken place. Although he's a bad father, Kella still inwardly thanked Hel for making this escape possible. As the Demon King's castle burns in the background, the duo walks through a field of green. For the first time in his life, Kella felt truly free. The possibilities from this point forward are endless. He can go anywhere he wants and be anyone he wants. He can live the life that he desires. While he was basking in liberation, a foreign power coalesced around his body. Before being completely swallowed, Rin identified the fluctuations of magic as a teleportation spell. Hurriedly, he grabbed Rin's hand to bring her to wherever this mysterious spell was taking him. Without hesitation, she steeled her resolve to join him wherever he went. The duo is headed to a place where magic and innovation thrive, but they don't know that yet. When they landed, the two had no idea where the spell took them. Rin initially thought that her master was the one who initiated the teleportation spell, but he denied having anything to do with it. He thinks it was an automated spell that tripped up like an alarm. His father must have prepared it in case he died in battle. Not only were they transported to an unknown land, but all of their lingering wounds were also completely healed. By Kella's estimate, they've probably spent 3 days within the teleportation space. The Demon King must have set the time on purpose, along with the healing magic, in case of an emergency. Setting up 2 high-level spells at once is not a feat that anyone can do. He might be a bad father, but Hel Kaldun cared about the survival of his children. Rin pieced the puzzle together and confirmed that the Demon King was dead. With a smirk, Kella rejoiced at how well his plan panned out. Since the empty throne has been burned down, Rin proposes that his master take over as the next Demon King. Naturally, that's the last thing he wants to do. But Rin had seen the drastic change he went through over the last couple of days. She now sees him as the one true successor of the king's legacy. She vowed to serve him to the best of her abilities until he properly took over the throne by any means necessary. He sighed in defeat and let her do what she wanted for now since he lacked manpower at the moment. After walking for a few minutes, they laid their eyes upon the first clue as to where they really landed. By the looks of the architecture, they are in the country of magic, Arsal, where magical talent is nurtured for the sole purpose of vanquishing demons. As the center of magic, Arsal is currently celebrating the fall of Demon King Hel, praising the light of Talua. The duo was confused as to why the teleportation spell would bring him to the heart of enemy territory. If they're discovered as demons here, a grim fate awaits. Thinking on her feet, Rin used transformation magic to hide her demonic features. She looks like a normal and gorgeous young woman. Kella copied what she did and transformed into a punk with a dyed mullet. Clueless about Arsal, he asked Rin to get him up to speed about the country of magic. According to her, Arsal is a small island country located on the eastern border of Talua. This place is blessed by the giant cryptid Watergore, who lounges nearby. The cryptid's presence also enabled the natural development of magic on the island, producing countless strong mages. More importantly, they have a long-running blood feud with demons under the banner of Talua. Kella can't figure out why his father would send him to this country of all places. Naturally, he wants to get out of this area as fast as possible. However, running away would require a little bit of prep work if they want to do it right. In order to achieve his big-picture goals in this world, magic will be instrumental. There's no better way to deepen his knowledge than to immerse himself in a city filled with magic. The arcane is completely integrated into the lives of the people of Arsal. They even use it in the most common buildings. Some of the structures are entirely dependent on magic. If Kella could learn here, he would be able to flex his gaming knowledge more effectively. But first, they have to get something to eat after being suspended in space for 3 days. Thankfully, Arsal is teeming with trade, and food carts line every corner of the town square. Upon trying the country's famous magic dish pastries, Rin was smitten. One food cart was all it took to become addicted. And so, their plan to stay low-key slowly flew out the window as the two hopped from food cart to food cart. Leading the charge, Rin sniffed out and tried everything she found interesting. Kella is starting to consider leaving her ass in the streets. After a whole day of eating, they found a magic bar to unwind. Inside the bar, people are celebrating the subjugation of the Demon King. Leading the party was none other than Commander Srills of Talkin, who was picking up the tab for the whole place. The drunken bargoers celebrated the greatest mage Arsal had ever produced. Among the crowd were Kella and Rin. A few beers were all it took for the lightweights to get drunk and celebrate with the humans. Having fun, Kella is starting to think that taking a break now and then isn't so bad. While they were drunkenly enjoying the festivity, they caught the eyes of the victorious commander. Her interest was piqued by the odd couple for some unknown reason. A few more rounds later, Kella had to run out of the bar to throw up. They got too excited and drank too much. Sobering up a little, Rin also found it a little disrespectful that they were partying and celebrating the death of the Demon King. Suddenly, a stampede of people came running towards the town square. They were all excited about a new S-rank quest posted for anyone to take on. The last S-rank quest to kill the Demon King just ended, yet the authorities are already putting up another one. Curious, Rin dragged the still nauseous young lord to see what the ruckus was all about. Posted on a castle wall was a bounty poster for the Demon King's son and the exorbitant price for his head. It looks like humans are really trying to put an end to the royal bloodline this time around. Kella almost drunkenly gave out his identity if it wasn't for Rin's timely obstruction. Most people are aware that Kella is supposed to be the weakest out of the Demon King's progeny. That means they can claim an S-rank award for accomplishing a B-rank difficulty quest. Every hunter on the continent must be elated. Hearing demeaning words from the crowd slapped the drunkenness out of Kella. He has to play safe and lay low. That's the safe play for now. As the master and servant left the town square, Rin asked her master what she should call him in public. They can't be going around calling him by his real name, after all. After a brief consideration, he asked to be called Chiwu. Hearing the weird name lacking any sort of grandeur, Rin was quite disappointed. Anyways, that S-rank bounty being posted for everyone to see is bad news. Chiwu had already abandoned the thought of spending one more second in Arsal. Hearing them talk about the new S-rank quest, the drunk Commander Srills butted in while holding a mug of alcohol in her hand. He might not be familiar with her, but based on her aura alone, Kella can tell that this woman is a threat. People in the tavern called her the Hope of Arsal. She bad-mouthed the surviving son of the Demon King, and Kella had to swallow his words and add them to the trash talk. Getting caught by this lady would be the worst-case scenario. Looking at the two with curiosity, the commander pulled them in by the shoulder. She directly asked them if that Demon King bastard's son would pose a problem at all. Inside the tavern, she noticed something peculiar. These two smelled rather strange compared to everybody else. Just as the master and servant were about to flip out, thinking that their ruse had been seen through, the commander threw another curveball. She only singled them out because they smelled like travelers who hadn't taken a bath in a while. Like a good Samaritan, she invited the two to come over, wash up, and get some more drinks at her place. Kella and Rin exchanged a mutually confused glance. Afraid of sounding suspicious, they stiffly agreed to the invitation. And so, they walked to the House of Arsal's Hope, and were forced to stay. Kella was pleasantly surprised that the gorgeous redhead really did offer a cozy hot springs bath to clean his body up. She even threw in a nice cup of tea and some delicious snacks on top of that. Based on their unfamiliar taste, he reckons even these snacks were made with magic. As far as he can remember, he's always wanted to live in the world of fantasy and games. For the first time since arriving in this new world, Chiwu felt like he was living the dream. He's tipsy, well-fed, clean, and he has the power of the Demon King. This isekai thing isn't too bad. Meanwhile, on the other bath, Rin is shivering in fear of being outed as a demon. Sitting next to her was Commander Shrills, who was very proud of her big bathtub. Her bathtub is very big, round and wet. Can you guys see that? She joked that Rin should stop acting so nervous, or someone might think she's a demon. Laughing awkwardly, she tried to play it off. To help her relax, the commander's fingers danced around as a fragrant scent oozed out of her hand. Rin immediately smelled the essence of the holy element, the worst scent for demons. Not only does it smell nasty to their senses, but it also drains demonic mana. If Rin stays in this bath a few seconds longer, her disguise spell will be undone. She wanted to call her master for help, but Yahello was busy sipping on his tea and enjoying his hot spring bath. Uncharacteristically, the commander confided to the stranger she just met. Shrills thought that all her suffering would vanish once the Demon King was dead. Covering her nose, Rin just wanted to get away from the stink of the holy essence wafting in the air. Disregarding her apparent uneasiness, Shrills continued that she was designed and raised to become the ultimate mage. Finally, having had enough, Rin interrupted her trauma dump and ran away. She excused herself, claiming that she needed to use the restroom for a bit. Shrills leaned on the edge of the bathtub with an odd smile, her assets glimmering and flushed. Rin quickly got dressed and met up with her master in the halls of the commander's mansion. He had never felt so relaxed before, but this was not the time for leisure. Rin's disguise spell was almost undone, and she's pretty sure that the commander is feeling sussy. That holy scent is an intricate spell that only an advanced mage can use. Not grasping the whole gravity of the situation, Yahello wondered if he could get one more quick bath in before they had to book it out of this place. Sensing Rin's unease, the commander covered up her bathtub and asked if her visitors were passing on a second round with her. Rin tried to awkwardly get out of her intense glare. Shrills summoned a mana orb and promised to make his guests some more drinks and dishes made with mana. Curious about food magic, the young master was easily persuaded for a second round with the feisty commander. Unbeknownst to them, a pack of mages is starting to gather outside the mansion. They've received some intel about the presence of demons inside. According to some sources, it's not just a demon, but the Demon King's child. This offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hit it big. In the living room, Shrills is bragging about her holy water drink. Both of her disguised demon guests had to drink it without grimacing, despite the intense burning sensation it brought. With a forlorn look, Shrills circled back to what she was talking about with Rin earlier in the bathtub. So, her trauma dump about her life continued. She joined the Talkin' Squad and trained with her life on the line just to kill the Demon King. She has plenty of scars to show how hard she worked. She must have concealed these scars with magic because Rin didn't see them earlier. In truth, she's also missing an eye. Running alongside the right side of her face is an unsightly scar from getting gouged. The commander had gotten used to hiding her imperfections with magic since seeing them reminded her of the pain from the past. As a child soldier, she and other children her age were drilled to hate the Demon King. They formed a squad created with the sole purpose of deposing Hel Khaldun. They were taught to endure all kinds of pain for the sake of the mission. Slowly, she was indoctrinated into the order, adapting their ideology. Before she knew it, her entire life had been dedicated to one clear goal. All she got in return were these scars. Curious, she swiftly went up to Yahello, straddled him, and lifted his shirt to check if he also had scars. Upon seeing and caressing his smooth skin without any blemishes and scars, a crazed look appeared in her eyes. Rin's alarm bells are ringing, and so are Yahello's. Shrills' touch is not only unexpected but also melting his disguise away. Finally, she whispered in his ears and directly asked if he was a filthy demon. Now it's clear that this woman knew what they were all along. Suddenly, rats started scurrying out of her fireplace. These rats were quickly fried by the uninvited visitors, the mages of Arsal. By the looks of it, the commander just brought them to her place to trap the disguised duo. Surprisingly enough, the mages didn't pay attention to either of them. They were focused on the scar in Shrill's eyes. They claimed that Heaven's message tipped them off about the fact that the Hope of Arsal is hiding her true self. Shrills of Talkin is a demon that infiltrated Arsal. After getting accused of being a demon, she didn't seem bothered in the slightest. Yahello is starting to get lost with all the twists and turns. These mages are not hunting him down. They're after the hero who killed the Demon King. Now that she has no reason to hide her true identity, Shrills uses dark magic to summon her scepter. She confessed that she was also the one who leaked her own secret. Now that she admitted to being a demon herself, there was no reason to hesitate. The mages fired off their most powerful spells all at once. While she might be a demon, she's also the most elite mage of Talkin. A dozen or so trash mages of Arsal can never dream of dealing with just one of her. Afraid that they might get caught in the magical crossfire, Rin begged her master to get out of the way. Before they could move, a dark explosion filled the living room. Densely packed concentrations of mana erupted all at once. When the black smoke cleared, the master and servant were surprisingly unscathed. Shrills easily deflected the seemingly catastrophic cacophony of spells without breaking a sweat. The enigmatic commander of Talkin just protected them. Shrills knew from the start that they were demons. They simply can't hide from her nose. To ease the two, she properly introduced herself as Shreels Khaldun, daughter of the demon king Hel Khaldun. After having that bomb dropped in front of them, the young master and the servant were speechless. For the sake of time, Shreels summoned a tiny speck of mana to explain everything through memory transfer magic. Suddenly, the duo's vision was taken over by a scene from the past. It featured the demon king and a trusty aide. It was the day when they cracked the code and managed to raise a demon who could hide her horns and demonic power. That day, young Shreels was in awe of the absolute ruler. He told her that his blood runs through her veins and she will be taking his name as his daughter. Ever since she was born, she had always just been one of the many lab rats raised in secrecy. Every day was like a living hell under the supervision of vicious demons, forcing them to undergo painful experiments. All she could do was grit her teeth and endure for better days. In the end, all the kids in the secret compound died off one by one, leaving her as the sole survivor. At that time, she thought it would only be a matter of time before she followed them to the grave. But her destiny was upended when Hel claimed her as a daughter. Her little heart swelled with honor and joy, eager to serve her Lord Father. That day was also when she got the name Shreels Khaldun. Alongside her name came a mission. She will act as a spy and infiltrate heaven to siphon off information. If it was for her father, the Demon King, she would gladly do absolutely anything. And so, her infiltration began by acting like an injured and innocent kid who wandered near Arsal. Mages thought she was attacked by demons and urgently took her in for treatment. From that point on, her life as the Demon King's spy officially started. Eventually, she worked her way up to Talua as a mage of Arsal. The path upwards was extremely difficult, but she powered through everything that came her way. Finally, she rose up to qualify for the strongest squad in existence, the Taucan Elite Force. 15 years after she infiltrated human society, she was able to finally meet her father once more. This time, on the battlefield. All she wanted to do was run and embrace him, but she couldn't. She knew she had to endure and wait for everyone except General Killman to die. Shreels was stationed at the flank, and her secret role was slowly weeding out the Taucan squad with her magic. That way, she can support her father until General Killman is 6 feet under. Once Taucan is wiped out, she can finally consider his mission a success and return to the castle with Daddy. She wanted nothing more than to start a new life by her father's side, to take on her real name, Shreels Khaldun. However, the battle didn't go down the way she thought it would. The general and the Demon King praised each other for exceeding expectations. As the apex predator, Hel was quite offended that he was being complimented by a mere human. Finally, General Killman pulled out his last ace in the hole, a final attack containing everything he has, the Spear of Heavens, Martyrs. Mirroring his efforts, the Demon King summoned the Flames of Hell, Magna Lexir. The clash of two ultimate techniques burned hot and bright. Shreels felt a bad premonition. In that instant, she clearly heard her father's voice. For the first time in a decade and a half, he called her daughter by her name. In her final moments, Hel Khaldun gave her one more final order to serve the next Demon King as she had served him, to protect the bloodline until the very end. As tears of mourning poured down her eyes, the clash of heaven and hell swallowed everything in its path. When the nuclear blast died down, the decapitated head of the Demon King was left lifeless. Staring at her father's lifeless remains, Shreels couldn't hold her emotions back any longer. After witnessing the Demon King's demise, backups arrived to clean up the mess, and she had no choice but to continue the ruse and return to Talua. While she was mourning the loss of the most important figure in her life, people from all over the entire continent were jovially celebrating to their heart's content. For the first time in millennia, humans finally caught a dub. From that moment on, Shreels decided that she would retire and move to Arsal, a place she considers a second home. She wanted to start anew, a clean slate. Arsal will be her home base while plotting to avenge her father's death. The plan starts by wiping out the country of magic off the map. Rin was conflicted, while Kella was feeling a pit in his stomach. He thought he finally got away from crazy siblings, but he thought wrong. Even though they're not completely blood-related, another sibling just means another headache. Snapping him out of his thoughts, Shreels claimed that she wouldn't force Kella and Rin to cooperate with her as fellow demons, but she is certain that Arsal is a core threat to all demon kind. The longer they let the center of magic prosper, the bigger a problem it will become, and the sooner her brother, the last hope of demon kin, Kella Khaldun, will die. Her words make sense. Even in the game, Chiwu recalls how important the role of mages is in wars. If they let Arsal be, they'll just continue sharpening the arcane to take his head. Speaking of mages, the first responders were distraught. They're worried that the explosion would attract more attention, and someone else might take credit for their discovery. So, for one more decisive attack, they pooled all their mana together for a kill shot. Thinking about it, these crooked mages must think the two youngsters behind Shreels are normal humans, yet they still attacked without thinking of possible collateral damage. Pissed off, Kella dispelled his disguise, showing off his horns and fangs, and claimed that he'll be dishing out some so-called self-defense. Upon distinguishing the hint of pure energy he was emitting, Sril's eyes went wide in shock and recognition. There's no doubt about it. She could feel her daddy's power boiling inside this young man. On this night, the siblings waged an endless battle against the center of magic in the human world. In Rin's untrained gaze, it probably looked like a one-sided massacre. Sril's considered Arsal her second home, so she knew its layout like the back of her hand. She started absolute destruction by mowing and burning down the main facilities of the government, followed by the Magic Academy. Kella used the Demon King's mana he inherited to keep up with his sister's efficiency. Together, they subjugated those in power who were drunk on the excitement of the festivities. Without batting an eye, he clawed through their flesh like bags of meat. With impeccable teamwork, the siblings were able to bring the nation of magic, Arsal, down to its knees. The whole place propped up by the arcane burned deep into the night. The smell of burning human flesh wafted in the air. Some of the surviving mages cursed the demons for destroying their home. In truth, Sril's could also say the same thing to these people. They are just retaliating for what these humans did to the demon realm. Arsal is just the beginning. Sril's had already set her sights on the Talkin Squad and the great empire of Talua next. She is determined to put an end to everything. Knowing the scale of such a mission, it seems impossible. Now that they're done decimating Arsal, Kella excused himself and walked away from his sister. Before he could leave, she confided that she recognized the man he was using, who was tied to his real identity. Since she already knows, there's no point in hiding any longer. When he admitted the truth, Sril's was taken aback. Truthfully, she was just throwing out an educated guess. She wasn't 100% sure. Since that's the case, Sril's explained that she's not the Demon King's daughter in a traditional sense. She's more like a mutant made by blood aura. Because of that, she wholeheartedly acknowledges Kella's royal bloodline. She might not look like it because of certain features. Sril's was actually made after Kella was born. That makes him her older brother. Hearing her say that petrified the young lord. Assuming that he also wants revenge for their father, she formally invites him to help in her mission. She doesn't know that revenge is the farthest thing in his mind right now. Hell, he even ran away from home. Upon sensing some unease on her brother's face, the crazy sister had to remind Kella that he was the only remaining bloodline of the king, the father's only remaining child. Afraid that this crazy redhead might turn on them, Rin whispered to her master to just accept the invitation. At this point in time, Kella also feels like he has no other choice but to play along. Calming down upon hearing his decision, Sril smiled and walked towards their next destination. While he's playing along, Kella intends to milk his mutant sister dry for all of Arsal's magic that she mastered. Revenge is the best excuse to stall for time while gaining a powerful ally. Unbeknownst to them, a mage survived the attack, and he's going straight to Talua to report about this. And so, the capital received the urgent message from the surviving mage. The urgent news quickly reached the ears of Talua's avaricious ruler. Intel about how Commander Sril's is an undercover demon, and the destruction of Arsal with the help of Prince Kella Khaldun unsettled the human king. Knowing that they missed the Demon King's progeny in Arsal was bad enough, but the prince connecting with a traitorous but powerful commander made it worse. If news of this development gets out, the king is more worried about being turned into a laughingstock than all the lives and infrastructure lost. Holding a steak knife in his hand, the king decreed a manhunt to eliminate Kella Khaldun and Sril's before the crown was humiliated. His advisor, Hayden, swore upon his name that he would get it done. Displayed in the king's throne room is the Demon King's lifeless, severed head, a show of dominance. Even in death, Hell Khaldun continues to be a thorn in Talua's collective throat. Equipped with hatred for demons, Hayden made a personal vow to extinguish every last bit of demon blood remaining in the world. The loyal advisor enlisted the help of someone called General Killian and his squad to deal with the urgent mission. If you ask anyone in the kingdom who the best knight in existence is, you will get a unanimous answer, Killian. Perhaps he's the only one capable of handling a mission of such urgency and difficulty. In the middle of a mountainous region, a man riddled with battle scars felt rage bubbling inside upon receiving news that his brother, Kilman, had died in battle. According to reports, Kilman sacrificed himself for mutually assured destruction against the Demon King. Killian doesn't care about the details. At the end of the day, he still died at the hands of a demon. The kingdom's messenger used this info as a way to persuade the knight to hunt down Kella Khaldun in the name of Talua. Killian couldn't care less about the kingdom. Since his brother was killed by a demon, he'll simply kill every demon in existence, starting with the king's bloodline. Killian's cold declaration denotes the slaughtering of Kella Khaldun. The scene shifts to the Demon King's son, who is shocked at the hefty meat skewer placed in front of him. Apparently, Mommy Srils has quite the appetite for food. Even Kella's servant is shocked that she can eat so much without gaining any weight. Girls would kill to have that kind of body. The girl even has a theory of her own to eat fast and defecate faster without gaining weight. As if she had been enlightened by the wisdom of the wizards, Rin devours the meat. Meanwhile, our boy is out here assessing Shriel's allegiance to a side. He's glad that at least she's not like his siblings who are desperately trying to take his life on every encounter. Moreover, he was worried that she might harbor some kind of hatred towards him for being one of the main bloodline instead of her. Just to confirm their relationship, he asks Shriels if she hates him or something. After all, he's the biological child and she isn't. To that, Shriels is offended in her response, roaring that she desires to kill him when considering that alone. Typical demon behavior. However, because he shares the same blood of their father, she just can't bring herself to despise him. Also, since he's got their father's blood, right now her only goal in life is to protect him no matter what happens. Different from the siblings he had as part of his family, this woman wanted to protect him. She promises to stake her own life on the line just to make sure nothing bad happens to our boy. Now that's the definition of true loyalty. Her words are so considerate that they swoon our boy in an instant. Rin is out here shocked to see Kella actually blushing before her eyes. Her future boyfriend is about to be stolen, so she quickly offers him her meat. And no, I don't mean it that way, but I know the comment section is ready to comment on that. Rin displays her own loyalty by promising to protect him until she dies. But instead of being flustered, Bro is a bit put off and worried. Apart from that, right now the group suspects that Arcel's situation will soon reach the ears of every major country. That means tons of demon hunters will be on their way to annihilate the threat. This means staying here would be a death ground for them all. That's why the red-haired mage wants them to relocate to a safer location. Kella argues otherwise, countering that it's an excellent place to at least sleep at night. After all, with only a hint of effort, they could turn this place into an impenetrable secret fortress to hold their ground. And so, with the help of Shriels, he got to work. Their first initiative was to alter the terrain so they could create the secret fortress. Next up, in their resting period, he reviewed some of the things he learned from their battles. Recalling how he expended lots of mana, the meditative Kella understands that he should rest as much as he can after using his energy. The same went for his father, who also required plentiful rest periods after a battle. Now for Shriels, she's expended even more mana than him, which is why her rest periods are longer than his own. In the end, they were able to recover over time and protected themselves with the help of the secret fortress that was crafted. In the next scene, we turn to the perspectives of our enemies. The Tolkien's second squad is called the Tolkien of White, and this squad boasts the most powerful knight on the continent, Killian. The king is glad to see the finest warriors assembled to slay the remaining demons. He's excited just to witness their arrival. This squad is the strongest squad ever, but Killian appears indifferent, and in his short training period, he's grown even stronger than last time. His friend believes that General Kilman would have been very happy with Killian's progress if he were still alive. Deed is then smacked for speaking about a delicate matter so easily. Audria seems to be the same as always. Another subordinate of Killian questions if they should really be listening to the king's orders. After all, their anger can't be satiated even after the killing of Kella Khaldun as the Demon King's son. Killian apologizes to Kalka, stating that he's got something to show to Curdly first. In the palace, Killian comes face to face with the beheaded trophy piece of the Heaven's Kingdom. Even after the Demon King's death, Killian is just as pissed at the loss of his brother. The rest of his teammates are observing in their own way, while Curdly confirms to the team captain that their tracking spell will work with the headpiece alone. The Great White Mage prepares her spell, reasoning that the bloodstains should be enough for her to track down the location of the bloodline. Killian coldly tells the Demon King's headpiece that he's going to personally enjoy slaughtering the rest of his kind, and he's hoping that Hel Khaldun gets to see all of it. The following morning, Shriels is heavy on her orders. She wants them to get started because she expects the arrival of the strongest squad of Tolkien. Not even Rin knows about them. The red-haired mage explains that in Talua, no one truly even believed that the first squad would be capable of taking down the Demon King on their own. They were basically going in as the experimental group to be used as a test. The real squad that is supposed to be only the best warriors, second to none and basically demon-killing machines, is the Squad of White. The Tolkien of White is led by Killian, the younger brother of the late general. The really troublesome part is that Kilman, who basically ended up defeating the Demon King, is even weaker than his brother. Though Shriels does not want to admit it, the Tolkien of White is much more capable than Kilman's squad, to the point that it is comparable for them to even imagine. Now that's terrifying. Kella is concerned while Rin displays visible nervousness. She doesn't know how they stand a chance against Talua. To that, Shriels explains that the Tolkien of White was trained in isolation, which means it will take a while for them to get together and come back. Until that happens, they've got to get started with Talua and end the battle soon. However, it won't be easy. Talua is way bigger than Arcel, so even Kella understands that luck won't be the deciding factor in this battle. And if luck is out of the question, he must do something. He argues that with his bounty quest already on the fly, it's possible that the Tolkien of White has already banded together. None of them know it, but he's actually right in this case, as we saw in the previous scene. Kella explains that it would be stupid for all three of them to attack Talua without backup. For now, they need to prioritize building manpower, build their own base, and fight back that way. It's an interesting idea to Rin. Kella goes on to explain that an entire army will be more than capable to handle a squad, even if it was the toughest squad in the continent. Top it off, their base won't fall, even in the worst outcome of the soldiers of Talua invading them. Kella intends to construct the most powerful dungeon. His plan stumps Sriels and surprises Rin. The thing is, there's no point in taking on battles that are too uncertain for them to win, because if they do take that approach, the end result will be that of what happened to their father. So the correct response to this situation is to build the strongest dungeon against the Tolkien of White, and use that to wage war against Talua. It's an impressive approach that even Sriels seems to take a liking to, and she's gained respect for him and his creative strategic approach. Meanwhile, our boy is just glad he was able to piece together a small plan in the heat of the moment. Sriels is thrilled to go on and build up their manpower first, especially since she's got enough connections to take care of that. Rin and Sriels are oddly excited for war, which should be the opposite of how they should be reacting. But Kella is rather surprised that both of the girls actually liked his idea to that extent. For now, this is the best way to stall for time. He intends to make his own world where no one will ever be able to interrupt him. The map that he could never create in real life can finally be created in this world to build the life he always wanted. Turning towards the red-haired mage, he asks Sriels if she knows a bunch of trustworthy demons. Fortunately, she's got a bunch of them as her contacts. Kella explains that they're going to need someone who has vast knowledge about the geographical location. Understanding that, Sriels realizes that there is someone like that. So their next trip is to go and see this mystery person. Along their journey, Kella was taught Arsol's magic through Sriels and learned more about the world. However, the magic seemed complex, and it wasn't something he could learn in a brief period of time. Luckily, thanks to the effects of the Demon King's blood, his adaptive abilities increased, and he was able to recreate Sriel's spells faster than usual. Kella is glad that he's learning at a faster rate, and with every improvement made, he thinks he's getting closer and closer to his goals. 4 days flew by in an instant, and their journey was about to meet its destination. Rin is surprised that a demon lives in such a barren location, though Sriels explains that the place wasn't always like this. It's only because of the Tolkiens that it was reduced to such a pitiful degree. Sensing the arrival of someone powerful, Sriels orders both of them to stay still no matter what happens. Right before them, the powerful demon makes a strong landing, thinking that the Tolkien squad has come to ruin this place again. He goes on to thrust a spear into Sriel's heart, but she's so badass, she doesn't even flinch and simply takes it like a champion. She understands that most of the demons have yet to hear of her existence, while Rin is terrified why the mage is letting herself be stabbed without confessing the truth about herself. Kella orders his servant to remain quiet, stating that they should allow them to have a moment to themselves. The demon and his men question why Sriels isn't fighting back, believing that she sees them as inferior and not worth her time. Apologizing for all the things that occurred on behalf of Tolkien, Sriels happily gets down to eating their wrath if it helps them feel better about their anger. Hands down my favorite character in this story. The demon is shocked to witness a human enacting the same symbolic pose of their kind. Sriels then finally confesses the truth, remarking that she too is a fellow demon and that she apologizes for her actions. This shocks the group even more, because they vividly remember her coming out with the Tolkien squad last time. Kella finally breaks his silence, declaring that he's the final remaining child of the Demon King, Hel Khaldun, and with his authority, he confirms the weight of her words. Just his sheer magic energy alone is enough to confirm to them that he's the Demon King's son. They immediately get down to pay him the proper respect he so deserves, enacting the same pose of their kind. The demons fully offer their support to the successor of their king, and so far their mission to gain a small army is turning out just right. Sriels is happy that even the others are respecting him as the rightful heir to the throne. Meanwhile, Kella is starting to believe that he might just end up commanding an actual army of his own in this life. The arrival of the great Demon King's son is celebrated loudly as the Earth Demons cheer their support for him. The elders are so happy to see him around, and are even ready to accept any orders from him. Kella looks around, observing the architectural magic used. The structures are different from the one used at the castle and at Arsol. The really impressive part? The city doesn't have any magic imbued inside of its structures. This was all made with raw materials, and the geographical placement of the city is also excellent for their missions. He wasn't expecting such a large city to be hidden so well underground. The Earth Demons rarely ever came to the surface after all. He turns to the mage, agreeing with her thoughts. They do need the help of the Earth Demons. Sriels also suggests recruiting the perfect warrior to become a part of their army. Kella is intrigued by her words, while Sriels continues that the Tolkien discover the city on their way to the Demon King's castle. And the moment they discovered it, Kilman began rampaging hell against it, declaring that he would not permit the existence of even a single demon. So he started slaughtering the demons ruthlessly using the soldiers of Talua. Under his orders, the forest that rested on top of the underground city was incinerated for good. This cornered the earth demons to the point of near extinction. But then something happened. One warrior came to the front, vowing to be the voice of justice. He argued that the humans were ruthless for killing little children who didn't even know how to fight. This prideful warrior did not want a single one of Kilman's men to pass him and lay a hand on children. Shocked to see a demon risking his own life to protect the children, Kilman found respect in him and asked for the warrior's name. Douglas roared loudly as the son of the earth demons. General Kilman almost pitied Douglas for not being born a human. But to the demon's shock, General Kilman stopped the massacre and told his squad to halt the mission and prioritize advancing to the Demon King's castle. Douglas couldn't even believe it, while Shreels departed by saying that one demon's bravery was enough to save their entire tribe. Douglas is LeBron, such a likable character. Anyway, that's how the Earth demons lived to see another day. Shreels recalls the story of how he stood his ground. The story is impressive enough to Rin, who immediately takes a liking to the man. Meanwhile, Kella is out here gathering his thoughts. He thinks Douglas would be an excellent addition to his army. While having a feast, he requests to meet Douglas immediately. Unfortunately, Douglas is known for his stubbornness, and even the leader of the Earth Demons thinks they should opt for some other warrior in his place. However, Kella is firm in his stance and demands to meet Douglas at once. The scene cuts to their encounter, and just like the tribe leader said, Douglas refuses to follow the orders of the son of the Demon King. He argues that he's not obligated to obey the successor despite his ranking. Kella amuses the possibility of him forcing Douglas's participation. To that, the prideful warrior states that he'll give up his life fighting to die for that decision. Kella doesn't understand his decision to remain stationed in the city. The guy explains that he spent his entire life in this place, and that's why he's got a duty to protect his cherished motherland. Kella finally understands what they meant when they called him a stubborn guy. Douglas apologizes for this quality of his. It's an unfortunate thing, really, and the interaction reminds Chiwoo of the time he tried recruiting an orc in the game. He thinks there's no point forcing the situation. After all, the man is willing to die for his cause. Kella then goes outside, remarking how the architecture of the city is even better than he imagined. Right now, he's desperate to find someone who knows the Earth Demons from the inside and out to help him. Meanwhile, Rin and Shrills are out here getting drunk like clowns and not helping at all. Kella's frustrated that they're not even doing their jobs. Fast forward to this man also getting his ass drunk having tasted the finest beer. All three of them are basically operating on a single shared brain cell at the table, while the Earth Demons are overjoyed to see their leaders having fun. They're also brought to their resting chambers shortly afterwards. Kella resumes his rest, not knowing that a bunch of demons have come to his room to secretly assassinate him. With an axe in hand, the reveal is shocking as Douglas is about to kill the Demon King's successor for his cowardice. He unloads the axe and connects the hit. Does this seem like the end of our boy? You thought wrong. Douglas is stunned that his target was able to dodge even in such a vulnerable position. Kella misses the axe by an inch, and remarks that he's finally certain of how the situation is holding up now. He pounces out of bed, while the rest of the rebels attempt to end his life for being a coward. Then we get a clearer view of Kella's thoughts. When he first met Douglas, he wondered why the warrior was making separate weapons that weren't supposed to be a part of the smithy. And the restraints he saw, they just looked too small to fit an orc. As he was walking around, he could also tell that multiple people were tailing him in secret. After that, he became even more wary of his surroundings and quickly realized that there was also a wall with a magical barrier coated inside. This barrier was so subtle that if he hadn't inherited the power of the Demon King's mana, he wouldn't have been able to tell that it was coated with magic. Then, he also recalled how in Shrills' version of the story, Douglas stood his ground protecting the children of the Dark Elves. However, upon close inspection of the city, he couldn't locate a single Dark Elf around. That's how everything started falling into place inside his head. And now, Kella makes his advance, sharply cutting past all of his enemies in a singular motion and defeating them all. With Douglas on the ground, he confirms to the warrior that Douglas never stated to the general that he wanted to protect the Dark Elves. Instead, Douglas only mentioned that he wasn't going to hand them over to them. This means the so-called brave and prideful warrior never really cared about protecting the children in the first place. He simply didn't want them to be taken away from him. Kella's cold assessment of reality terrifies the scumbag, who is at a loss for words. Kella then amuses a question. Should they finally undo the magic barrier that he placed so meticulously? In the next scene, the son of the Demon King has Douglas revealed as a traitor. The man who they revered to be a great warrior turned out to be a lying clown. Also, Kella is convinced that every Earth Demon was also a part of the plan. This means they were using Douglas to assassinate him in secret, as even the filthy tribe leader is shocked that Douglas failed to execute the mission. Kella is pissed, demanding the Earth Demons to stay put, otherwise he will slaughter their warrior. The Earth Demons unveil their true nature, calling Kella a coward even though they worshipped him only a while ago. Facing the same magical wall he sensed from earlier, Kella orders his hostage to open the door immediately. Since he doesn't have any other options but to comply, Douglas unlocks the door, revealing the dark reality. The elves he was looking for and their children sat terrified and enslaved. Kella is mortified to find them starved and in an even worse state than he envisioned. Shrills and Rin also come around checking on his health, confirming his suspicions. They're even more shocked to see the fate of the Dark Elves. Our boy orders the mage to take one Dark Elf from the group and transfer their memories to him using memory transfer magic. I love this approach. So she gets to work, telling him that it's going to be less vivid but still doable. Kella awaits her spell. She casts the spell on each hand, and the process of memory transfer initiates at last. These memories come from the perspective of a male Dark Elf, who calls this place a living hell. And yeah, just a reminder, it's a guy, but I bet his appearance threw you guys off. His mother was forced into having children, and every single female Dark Elf met the same fate. Of the young children that were born, they were quickly handpicked by the human nobles who took them away. The young elves were sold for tons and tons of money, profiting the Earth Demons with their business. Sometimes, the adult elves who were captured from the outside world would tell them how the world was filled with beauty. There was a beautiful horizon and waves of clear oceans, food that was delicious, and there was endless beauty. But that was only the case for the outside world. You see, for the children born here, they only knew what it was like to be enslaved. The Dark Elves were bred for only one purpose, and their lifelong dream was to have their own children be freed. That way, at least the later generations couldn't meet the same fate as them. Having experienced the full painful weight of the woman's memories, Kella is brought to a godlike rage. He swears at the scumbag race of the Earth Demons who conducted such a horrifying business in the underground city. His anger is so uncontained that our boy chucks a monstrous hook against Douglas's face, but I doubt the pain is even a fraction of the pain that the Dark Elves endured. The warrior is pushed back into a tree. Shrills has the same reaction as Kella. Meanwhile, the bastard confirms that they were smuggling the Dark Elves from the beginning. After all, they were a rare breed that were in demand by the human nobles. Known to be loved by nature, the Dark Elves helped them live in locations that brought them peace and safety. But this bastard thinks that makes them a target and a reason to become a breeding livestock. Hearing those pathetic words, Shrills is in the mood to end the demon's life. Douglas roars that they can't do anything for their own survival with the death of the Demon King, so they have to resort to this business to survive. But Kella, oh boy, he is pissed. He remembers how miserable his original life had been, the struggles he endured from his family. But the pain and suffering that these children experienced is far greater than the life that he endured. He refused to stay put and do nothing in a time like this, especially when such horrors are taking place before his eyes. Declaring Shrills and Rin, he believes that it's time for the group to complete Kilman's job. Now that's a bone-chilling order, but even the red-haired mage agrees with this approach, believing that these guys were traitorous monsters from the start who betrayed their fellow race. Kella is done messing around and fully intends to annihilate every single Earth Demon there is. Douglas, on the other hand, seeks the help of his comrades, seeing as though their numbers are higher than the three of them. The battle, or should I say the massacre of the Earth Demons, begins with Rin blocking their attacks, Shrills casting her great magic while roaring their betrayal against the great Demon King's own flesh and blood. The Earth Demons insult our boy for being a coward who shouldn't be used as a leader for their kind. But Rin, his most loyal servant, deems this as nonsensical, as Kella is destined to become the next Demon King even with their disapproval. Speaking of our boy, he's out here throwing hands like a man, understanding that it was no longer a game but a part of his life. He needed to change something with his powers. Delivering a powerful kick to Douglas's pathetic face, he refuses to back down. Meanwhile, the Dark Elves are surprised. They've never once had someone fighting for their sakes. The one from before realizes that they must help these people win the battle. Even though the others try to stop Wood from intervening, he believes that this is their only opportunity to escape a life of torture. They must act now. The word torture rings loudly in their minds. The memories of being brutally abused triggers a traumatic response from Wood. Kella notices this, and turns to Douglas, questioning if he can hear the cries of pain that he doled out on the innocents. He will make sure that the Earth Demons suffer the same wrath. Seeing as the situation has come to his disadvantage, Douglas decides to take severe measures and swallows some kind of berry. It's actually a magic earth ore, and he recommends the Earth Demons to each swallow their own. This fight is one for their survival, so they quickly follow Douglas's instructions. Rin is shocked. She had only read about the earth ores in myths and stories. Meanwhile, the Demon King's son has no idea what it does. The mage reveals that upon consumption of an earth ore, The demon's lifespan is severely shortened, but their strength is amplified by dozens of times. Now this is really bad for our heroes. The Earth demons begin transforming at an alarming rate, their bodies morphing to kill the Demon King's son. Douglas now resembles a mindless monster as he roars a declaration. Kella displays clear concern, noticing how their demonic energy was indeed amplified. In return, he can't even make use of his full powers of the Demon King, not in the state he's currently in. Douglas lashes out in an effort to unload a monstrous punch against our boy. Kella comprehends the gravity of the situation, and at this rate, fears that the attack will leave him brutally injured. But to his fortune, a bunch of wooden vines erect from the ground, stopping the Earth Demon's attack and strangling him in place. The conjurer of this attack isn't Shrills, but a dark elf who refuses to be tortured again, vowing to never meet the same fate. Wood's courage strikes fear in the hearts of her own allies, who think that the elf has endangered her life. Douglas is pissed and ominously makes a promise to torture the elf until death. But that won't be happening anytime soon, not on Kella's watch, who declares that he will never allow a dark elf to be tortured again. His piercing attack has punctured the demon's body fully. Then, remembering Wood's name, Kella confesses that he's found a liking to the dark elf. Douglas felt a sting of betrayal, oblivious to his own horrifying actions. He thought he did the dark elf a favor by raising him, but now he is so mad that he wants to kill them all. Kella wasn't expecting this guy to unlock even greater power with the expense of his anger. His body became bigger as he latched a power punch and smacked our boy with the full weight of its force. The attack sent him crashing into a wall, as Kella found himself stun-locked at how powerful the earth magic stone could force a demon to become. Douglas isn't finished. He targets Wood next, vowing to kill the dark elf for good. The monstrous creature grabs him by the neck, promising to rip the elf's head right off. His hand crunches and forces the elf to experience a world of pain. Even Kella is terrified at the state of Douglas, who is now even more focused on killing Wood than assassinating the Demon King's son as his original target. The dark elf moans in agony, while Kella senses the critical situation and a need to form a long-ranged attack. With his powers, he searches dark and deep for something that can help him save the elf's life. All of a sudden, he enters a spiritual state in a black void. In this void, a dark figure laughs at him as he reminds the boy that this is supposed to be his own consciousness. Kella demands to know the dark figure's identity, who claims if he's interested in asking a better question, perhaps a question on how he should save his friend's life. Even though time has slowed down considerably in his consciousness, they still need to act quickly. Recalling Wood's condition, Kella begs for a way out to save the dark elf. The dark being inside his mind declares that the boy is unready to handle the full scale of his father's powers. Be that as it may, eventually his body and mind will cooperate in unison with one another to handle the Demon King's powers. Kella gets straight to the point. He doesn't want to hear long explanations when there's a life to be saved on the line. The dark figure reveals that there is one ability he could use. Before leaving, the dark figure drops a bombshell. He reveals Kella's name from his original life and world as Kang Chi-Woo. Whatever this thing is, it seems to be aware of our boy's past life. Before Kella is able to comprehend the situation fully, he exits the void and focuses on the weapon spiritualizing on his hand. It's his father's fire arrow, which is just the thing he needs to fire a long-ranged shot. Roaring at Wood to protect his body, Kella unleashes his ferocious projectile. Douglas is starstruck at the beam of light coming his way, while the dark elf uses this chance to expend his magic into casting a wooden shield. Kella proclaims the end of Douglas's terrorizing axe as the projectile disintegrates the Earth Demon. The inflicted pain is so agonizing that the Earth Demon is crying out to be saved. Thankfully, Kella saved the elf in time with a direct hit. Douglas incinerates, and he is inevitably devoured by the blue flames. Meanwhile, Kella questions the identity of the mystical figure he met in his consciousness. Anyway, apart from Douglas, they still have plenty of other Earth Demons to deal with, starting off with the ones targeting Rin and Shrills. Unfortunately, the mage can't use the best of her magic because of the limited space, but Kella's here for their rescue, as by harnessing his father's powers, he launches multiple arrows from the distance, each of them striking down the Earth Demons in successive fashion. The mage is really impressed seeing his magic powers finally take form and become even stronger. Now, he's acquired a new technique to his set of abilities, a power that he's really proud of. In the next scene, we get to see the conclusion of the battle. The Earth Demons are done for. Shrills didn't expect the gemstones to be even more powerful than the rumors, while Rin is surprised to learn that they eat away at the demon's lifespan for power. They're still a mystery, so they're going to be used for future investigation. As for the remaining Dark Elves, Kella officially declares them freed from their shackles. He doesn't want them to do anything but live their lives freely from now on. Hearing the word freedom comes across as oblivious and unreal to the elves, who were bound by chains their entire lives. Kella grants them permission to leave the city and find their freedom. At last, their dream of acquiring freedom for their children has been granted to them. Paying respects to Kella and his allies, the elves bow down in support. Unfortunately, they were unable to make use of the earth demons as part of their battle force. Shreels is disappointed to find out that she and Kilman were basically manipulated by the traitorous clowns. Maureen remarks that there's nothing they can do in this instance but accept the reality. As for Kella, he's interested specifically in Wood, as he goes on to ask if the Dark Elf was captured from the outside world. The Dark Elf confirms this fact, so Kella goes on to assume that Wood doesn't have any family to live with. That fact too is confirmed by the Dark Elf with a sorrowful yes. Our boy then invites him into their group, offering him a chance to become a guide to help navigate the terrain. Wood emphasizes that he's not an earth demon, and he's not even particularly talented at navigation. With a heavy heart, he states that he won't be of any help to their group. Kella promises him that Wood is one of the Dark Elves who are loved by nature, and he impresses the Demon King's son by showing courage in the face of danger. Those two reasons are more than enough to make him earn their trust. So once again, Kella requests his hand. Awestruck by his words, Wood struggles to form his words. For the longest time, he's only known suffering. He didn't even know what his parents were like. The Dark Elf was left abandoned and was kidnapped, enduring a life of suffering. This hellish life is the only life he knew as the earth demons took his joys. He felt like there was no escaping this life. And now that he's being granted freedom, the pitiful Dark Elf truly questions if he's allowed to have this freedom. Tears trickle down the sides of his face as he innocently requests to follow Kella's command, almost as if he himself doesn't believe that this day has come. Kella corrects the Dark Elf, stating that he's not going to order him around. Instead, they'll work together. And with that, a bond between the Dark Elf and the son of the Demon King was formed. By the night, Kella's friends had taken care of the earth demons and freed the Dark Elves. At first, he was worried sick that something might happen to them in the outside world. But remembering how they're loved by Mother Nature itself, he wished for their best. After all, wherever they continued to live on, it would be miles better than the hell they once knew. Wood sees them off, and the new group of 4 is banded. Rin, on the other hand, is out here policing the newcomer already, but Wood is a good listener and is ready to follow their instructions. Shreels believes they should find a place close to a river. Thanks to his sharp senses, the Dark Elf points to water in a specific direction. Rin is impressed by the newbie and praises him for his skills, while Kella inquires the reason behind looking for a river. The mage tells him that they simply can't keep on walking forever. It's best that they use a river to their advantage. Rin thinks they're gonna go catch a dragon, but her hopes are dashed as the mage confirms otherwise. Shreels thinks their luck is so crap they won't even find a unicorn, much less a damn dragon. Kella's fine with following Wood's coordinates, and the group moves along as per his instructions. A while passes, and what do you know? There are unicorns after all, and they're enjoying drinking water from the mystical clear river. But upon sensing the might of a ferocious predator, they run away. And here's the funniest part. There is in fact a flipping dragon there. Back to the group, Shreels keeps on reminding the dumb girl that they're not going to find a winged beast. Since we haven't checked on Killian's squad in a while, let's see how they're holding up. Curdley sees an earth demon pleading for help, and realizes that this demon is the only one of his kind that survived the massacre. The white mage recalls their discussion. Deed was complaining why the tracking spell failed to work against their targets. Curdley explains that she doesn't have an answer for that, as she can detect multiple targets in different locations. They weren't expecting so many children of the Demon King being left behind. Because of that, they can't really pinpoint which one is Kella from the group. Curdley confirms this fact, which causes further annoyance to the group because they're practically going to be wasting time in trying to hunt them all down. Killian, as their captain, suggests exactly that choice. He plans to exterminate all of the demons spread throughout the continent, starting with Kella, as he makes a request for him. The white mage then offered to teleport to that location on her own, which would be a much faster way of confirming. This allowed the rest of the Talcon squad members to exterminate the Demon King while she searched for them. So that's how she teleported here using her spell, vanishing before their eyes. Gojo Satoru's genocidal son over here, on the other hand, is planning to wipe out the demons for good. Having stepped foot in the land, she senses traces of the boy's energy here, which makes her wonder if Kella came to pay a visit. The last Earth Demon confirms this fact, explaining how the boy wiped out their tribe. She then interrogates about his location. Unfortunately, the Earth Demon doesn't know and requests to be saved. But before he can even finish his sentence, a bullet is shot clean through his head, ending his miserable existence. The white mage is ruthless, and she has no need for useless demons. Her next goal is to follow the traces of Kella's energy and proclaim his name. In the next scene, our squad finally steps into the heavenly location of the river. Our boy is impressed by the Dark Elf's tracking skills. The fact that Wood was able to sense the river days ago from that much distance says enough about his talent. Meanwhile, Rin is policing him like the usual, reminding the dark elf not to get cocky as a newbie. Kella suggests getting some food since they've not indulged properly for a few days. Rin is happy to serve them because she's an excellent fisherman. The river has plenty of fishes for them to catch, but to their shock, the dark elf caught them all in a mere instant. Wood reveals his ability to control the flow of water using his powers of nature, which was how he launched the fish right to him. Sreels is really happy to find him among their team. Meanwhile, the jealous Rin is annoyed she couldn't be the one to be praised. She even tries to start the fire, but Sreels is a step ahead and casts a blaze instantly using her magic. Yet again, poor Rin appears useless to their team. Depressed, she goes away sulking by herself. Later, the group shares the food thanks to Wood's contributions. Kella sees Rin being a Debbie Downer and wonders why she's not eating. Because of her laziness, Sreels takes away Rin's portion, further adding onto the poor girl's stress. For a while, Kella has taken notice of his servant's sad state. To make her happy and feel useful, he expresses a request to find fruit. The loyal servant rises to the occasion to find some for him right away, and even though Wood offers to locate the fruits in a second, Bro urges him to stop because he knows she'll be sad. He entrusts Rin with this super important mission, and she launches away to execute the task with glee. Sreels is amused by Kella's servant, calling her a Mirton. Also, she takes notice of the boy's consideration for the girl and even teases him for falling in love. Kella denies the accusations and acts like he really wanted to eat fruits. Apart from that, they ask Wood if they can really find unicorns around. Luckily they can, because he can find traces of their scent around. Kella, on the other hand, is really hoping for a cool-ass dragon to come popping out of nowhere for them to use. Sreels emphasizes that there's no such thing, just like she's pointed out tirelessly before. The scene cuts to the loyal servant, who's happily searching for fruits and finally locates them on top of a tree. She leaps away to snatch the apples, not knowing what creature she's stepping on. Suddenly the ground underneath shakes, but it's not exactly the ground but a wild dragon looking at her dead in the eye. This girl's luck is truly the worst for casually running into a terrifying dragon. It was at this moment she knew she fudged up. The girl lets out a loud scream at the sight of a dragon, even though she was so excited to meet one before. Kella learns from the dark elf that he can sense the natural energy of their planet. IT can't be explained through words, but that's basically what happens. He senses the energy coming up from a distance. His explanation is intriguing enough, and it causes our boy to wonder if it's similar to looking at a map. Sreels is happy because they've struck gold with this ability, as they can locate dungeons easily now. However, the only downside is that he can only search up to a certain distance, which makes the dark elf doubt his utility. Kella wonders if it's possible to hone this ability via training. The dark elf confirms that there is one way to increase proficiency, and that's by consuming the clairvoyant stone of a 1,000-year-old dragon. It's going to amplify his ability by several hundred times, which is freaking insane. Even Kella's like, what the actual fudge did you just say? Several hundred times is a big upgrade. But like Shrill said, finding a dragon like that isn't going to be easy, and there's no way for them to properly slay one either. Intrigued by the mage's description of the dragons, Kella wonders just how powerful the winged creatures are. Sreels elaborates that dragons are supposed to be the apex predators in their world. Also, they naturally despise demons. The only people who have ever lived to tame dragons were humans with exceptional mental fortitude, which is an ironic thing as pointed out by Kella, who remarks that the weak humans are capable of taming strong dragons. Of course, the boy doesn't understand the weight of Sreel's words, because she knows the nature of dragons much better. More importantly, the clairvoyant stone of a dragon seems even more impossible to find. Sreels emphasizes that they shouldn't get worked up over chasing miracles over here when it's a lost cause. Kella ultimately accepts the bitter truth, though he wishes for a way for them to find one for the dark elf. And back to the scene of the fruit-hunting servant. She's out here running for her life being chased by a ferocious dragon. To Sreel's utter shock, she can't believe they actually ended up encountering a giant dragon. The group channels the energy of an Olympic runner as anyone would in this situation, and they all run the fudge away. Not even the mage had seen a dragon of this size before her eyes. Rin keeps on screaming, which only further draws the dragon's attention towards them. Their loud screaming is heard by the white mage Curdly, who's almost made her way to them. After some time, the dragon finds itself lost, questioning where the tiny demons went. The group luckily saved their asses by hiding behind boulders. This causes the dragon to finally give up on its hunt as it flies away. Sreels immediately roars at the damn useless servant who brought a freaking dragon when her mission was to get fruits instead. Meanwhile, the dark elf is still admiring the dragon's size. He assumes that this kind of dragon must have at least lived for over a millennium. Kella's in the middle of being amazed when Curdly gives me a jump scare by casually commenting on the dragon bearing a clairvoyant stone. Not even Kella processed that she was around, let alone the rest of the group who is like, where the hell did this chick even spawn from? He asks about her identity, while Shrills jumps up in terror upon noticing the Talcon of White's famous mage. The group can't believe that they've run into a member of the squad, and that they've already been tracked down. They immediately assume a battle formation to defeat her at once, but the fearless mage merely stands awaiting. She's supposed to be a cold-blooded mage with no room for mercy, despite her majestic looks, which I'm sure are making some of you fawn over her beauty. Kella is out here having a panic attack, realizing his peaceful life is going to be ruined, as his luck is the absolute worst for encountering one problem after another. Not to mention that he's facing a terrifying mage as his opponent. Curdly merely tells them to calm down instead of opening fire, exclaiming that there's no point in taking the fight. This comes as a shock to Kella's system, who wasn't expecting to hear those words. The white mage addresses the traitor of the Talcon squad, and argues that even Shrills must know that fighting is pointless here. After all, this chick is so freaking powerful that she could end their lives with a single spell. Terrified of her might, Kella seeks confirmation from the red-haired mage. Unfortunately, she's right, she really can end their existence with a single attack. She alone is way stronger than the entire group combined, which is crazy when you consider the fact that Killian is probably miles ahead in his own squad. The main characters in this story are seriously cooked. The servant is frightened that there's no way out of this one, but Curdly explains that there's no point in fighting. After all, if they simply follow her without taking the fight, she promises they'll live for a while. Kella refuses to oblige until he hears where she's taking them. The white mage happily reveals that she's going to take them right back to her captain, Killian, who is awaiting her return. Shrills understands that the squad of white is already on the move under their master's orders. Curdly emphasizes that their leader is searching for Kella, so he must be taken. But the son of the Demon King is unrelenting and unveils that he's going to die even if he follows her. The white mage coldly remarks that at least this way, the boy will be able to survive for a while longer. This situation has completely flipped the understanding of this world over inside Kella's head. He had assumed that this was the miraculous world he always dreamed of, but now he's facing death. Our boy fully understands that obeying this woman practically confirms his death, which is why he's willing to die on his knees fighting death instead of accepting it handily. Commanding the power of his bow, he unleashes an arrow, which is casually blocked by the mage. The rest of the squad unleashes their own range of attacks, with Shrill's spells being unable to penetrate Curdly's barrier. The same goes for the Dark Elf's attacks, and in the end, her defensive barrier reigns supreme, protecting her from all harm. Interestingly enough, Rin is willing to prove her worth in this battle, and wants to show her master that she can be useful too. So that's why she's extremely cautious this time. Or so she thought, because she stupidly used a close-ranged attack against her barrier, causing Shrills to scream at her to run. The white mage uses this opportunity to show them just how outclassed they truly are. Unfortunately, Rin is hit with a powerful ice magic attack and launched to the side. As for Curdly, she coldly declares that she's fine with recovering Kella's dead body to her captain at this point. The mage unleashes a barrage of blizzard projectiles from the sky. Luckily, Shrills was able to cast a barrier of her own to protect them all. Even Rin. The piercing projectiles struck the barrier hard. Meanwhile, Rin apologized to her master for being so reckless and useless. But even Shrills is annoyed, pointing out that this is no time to feel doubtful of her abilities. Her barrier is about to break. Kella questions if she's got anything in her arsenal to counter the white mage's projectiles. Unfortunately, Shrills explains that they wouldn't stand a chance even if she did possess a special spell like that. Curdly is out here opening gates of Babylon like Gilgamesh and launching hundreds of sharp projectiles. The shield is shattering, and the moment that happens, they're all doomed. The entire group is desperate for a way out of this sticky mess. Kella desperately hopes to find a way using his brain. Finally, an enlightening strategy hits him. He recalls the existence inside of his consciousness and hopes to meet him again. Bro begins to channel his own energy from the inside, which comes across as a naive move by Shrills, as his mana pressure would only weaken the shield from the inside. Kella concentrates his full might and pleads for the same dark figure to meet him again. But that doesn't happen. Here's what does happen though. The giant dragon from earlier senses a battle taking place nearby and is drawn to Kella's outrage. Sensing the Demon King's energy coming from the boy, she remarks that it must only come out when he forces the use of his powers. Now, she finally understands the reason she couldn't locate him earlier. Be that as it may, the white mage is fully convinced that this battle will be their last. This is the end for Kella Khaldun. Meanwhile, our boy is focusing hard, practically begging to be given another chance to enter his state of consciousness again. He assumes that it would activate upon a near-death experience, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Shrill's barrier is at its limits and is finally shattered completely. The projectiles are fully thrusted in Kella's direction, and this seems like the end for them all. Or so you thought. A plot twist. The giant dragon has come to their aid, looking mightier than ever as it blocked all of the arrows. Kella is stunned to see the dragon helping the group instead of seeking to kill them like last time. Thankfully, the great dragon has taken their side, much to the white mage's surprise. Her attacks don't stop coming, though. Meanwhile, the dragon seems to be drawn to Kella specifically, much to his bafflement. Both their eyes meet, and they unlock a part of the dragon's memories in the past. Apparently, the dragon served Kella's mother, which means they knew each other, and the dragon grew fond of her as they shared the best of memories. In this moment, the dragon's voice comes clear inside his mind, ordering the demonic boy to run away. Kella is genuinely startled to hear the beast's voice. The great dragon then spits out its prized clairvoyant orb, which Kella catches, much to his surprise. He didn't know what it was until the great beast confirmed it to him. Kella doesn't understand why the dragon is doing him such great favors. The winged beast unfortunately doesn't have enough time to elaborate. Right now, he wants the boy to run away and conceal his powers. Kella is still at a loss for words comprehending the meaning, but the great dragon senses trouble and urges the boy to make haste. Turning around, the creature responds to the mage in white with a powerful fire breath. Despite defending herself successfully, Curdly is pleasantly surprised to find a dragon actually helping out a demon, as it is the most unexpected situation. Kella doesn't have any time to spare right now, and has to utilize this moment to escape. He gathers the team and they all flee with the great dragon delaying their demise. Even Curdly finds herself a bit annoyed seeing such a mighty dragon interfere with their battle. And with the beast's involvement, she has to rethink her strategy. The great dragon continues to unleash a column of fire, its output still unable to shatter her barrier. Curdly wants to respond in kind with a powerful spell of her own, and lets out a fraction of her powers. This woman unleashes a magic circle even bigger than the dragon, and from that magic circle emerges a gigantic meteor targeting the dragon from above. The meteor's unexpected descent catches the dragon off guard, and in the face of death, the winged beast cherishes its most enjoyable memories with Kella's mother always by his side. The meteor makes full contact with the dragon, killing it upon impact. Kella sees the sheer scale of the attack from afar, and realizes the conclusion. A pool of blood covers the icy meteor, having pierced the dragon's skin with success. Curdly makes her descent, questioning the dragon's objective to help the demons. She still can't make out a sensible explanation for it, so she uses a memory navigation spell to try and find out more. But right then, the dragon unleashes a final attack as the dragon disintegrates. The creature declares that the humans have been nothing more than selfless and cruel, and there will come a time when they'll face sheer collapse for their actions. With that, the dragon's body withers away into nothingness, leaving ashes as his remains. The creature chose to end its own life to prevent her from unlocking its memories. That much loyalty just to get Kella and his group to mask their presence and run away safely. Curdly finds this situation problematic, but still she believes it will not defy Kella Khaldun's inevitable fate. Extending her arms up in the air, she confirms that the Demon King's successor will be killed at the hands of the White Talcans. Having escaped, the group ponders the dragon's erratic behavior. It was clearly trying to hunt them down, so it's really strange how it switched up all of a sudden. The Dark Elf has a theory. He believes that the dragon only spared them because of Kella, as the beast did appear out of nowhere when Kella concentrated some of his powers. The son of the Demon King was able to take a glance into the dragon's memories, and he reveals that the dragon shared a connection to his mother. But that still doesn't make any sense, as Rin points out the sour relationship of the dragons with demons. She's really curious on how they ended up together. Even Kella doesn't know the exact details, but he sensed a warm feeling from their interaction. Also, the creature left him with its clairvoyant stone. It's the one thing they needed the most. The dragon turned out to be the best wingman ever for saving their lives and handing them a prize. Sreel's remarks that they were basically just saved by the Demon Queen at this point. Kella's curious to learn the relationship of his mother and the dragon, as he could sense something from the creature's eyes. He hands the stone over to the Dark Elf. Wood accepts the stone, and finally he'll be able to undergo an evolution. Sreel's reminds them that the Talcan of White is tailing them sharply, so they're gonna need the best abilities to help them out. Wood is still hesitant on using such a precious gift. It's the rarest of items and he feels guilty for using it. But in this case, Kella strongly encourages him to use it as they've got no one else to use it on. Wood willingly complies to his words and eats the stone. The moment he swallows it, a foreign feeling courses through his body. The Dark Elf revisits the dragon's true memories. 1,000 years ago, the young dragon was tortured and experimented on by cruel humans. They tortured the creature and enjoyed its demise. The torture continued every single day as the beast cried without end. Many generations passed all the same, as humans continued to tear his body apart, taking different parts for themselves. It was the most brutal of sufferings. And right when he neared his death, they always healed him back so they could continue their experiments. The great dragon suffered through the same fate for centuries on end. Imagine a fate like that. The poor beast had already accepted reality, and had gone insane from all the times it had been tortured. Crying felt meaningless, so the beast simply accepted its fate. The humans considered it an achievement that they could make a dragon stop crying from the pain. Right when the creature sought its inevitable death, Turk Khaldun, the previous demon king, began invading humankind. He appeared more monstrous than ever and enjoyed slaughtering every single human. It was during that battle that the lab he was placed in met its collapse, and for the first time in its life, the dragon was freed. That's how it escaped the hellish lab, all thanks to the demon invasion. Finally feeling the freedom it longed for in the skies, it tried to find other creatures of its kind. He openly confessed the dark truth about the cruel humans and wanted to ally with the demons to formulate an attack. But to his shock, not a single one believed his words. They'd already grown fond of the humans and did not want to break their relationship. Plus, they hated demons and were fighting them alongside the humans. But unbeknownst to most dragons, they were unaware of the dark truth behind their close relationship with the humans. The only reason they grew an affinity to humans is because dragons like him were tortured and experimented on for centuries on end. Those same humans exhausted dragons to continue their experiments, understanding more of their magic. But this dark truth wasn't accepted by the creatures of its own kind. They didn't want to form a relationship with the demons, especially since they strongly rejected them already. And because the dragons feared that he would try to harm the humans, it was left all alone. There was no one to care for him, and he belonged in neither of the three races. The lonely winged beast entered a state of meditation, questioning its purpose for being brought into this world. After all, he had now been rejected by all three sides and couldn't do anything, so it did not make sense why he existed. That's how the dragon began isolating itself all alone, in complete darkness and solitude. His life was wasted for many years, as he awaited his inevitable end, until one day, a weeping demon girl came rubbing her eyes to the giant creature. That's how he met Karista, the girl who had no one, and began calling the creature Mommy.